Hey Dylan, did you hear that Nazem Kadri doesn't want to play for the Flames?
Oh man, I've been hearing that for years, but I could swear something just happened to prove that whole thing wrong.
Yeah, you're damn right. Brad decided otherwise. Chris and Dylan from the ArmChair GM Podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. Let's get into it. Well, Dylan, Brad pulled off an amazing feat yet again today.
He sure
We,
did.
yeah, right. He brought in, I guess, should we call it the second most sought after free agent for the 22 off season?
Yeah, man. And honestly, personally, I'm pretty excited about it, at least for the next couple years. Um, it's gonna be tough because it's you know obviously anybody who's watching us right now will know that we picked up Nazem Kadri for 7 years for $7 million a year. Um, Now they still haven't released anything about a no trade clause or anything like that, but it's gonna be a rough last 3 years of that deal, probably maybe four. But in my opinion, our window to win is like 2, 3, maybe 4 years, anyways.
Yeah.
So by the time that contract becomes a problem, it's almost gonna help us get a better pick by being ineffective.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know both of us are not super pumped on this 7 year because
Yeah,
he'll be almost 39 when that contract expires, which is horrendous.
especially for
But
his play style.
yeah, absolutely. He plays a little more aggressive and rough
Yeah.
style, so that play doesn't do well for the body, right? We
No,
know that guys like that tend to shut it down a bit earlier than say like Huberdeau or somebody that's a little more finesse.
a little less physical, a little less, in the corners and fighting and stuff like that. Usually those guys last a little bit longer, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that is what we were missing, right? With Kachuk leaving. I mean, I'm not saying they're carbon copies of each other. Like Kachuk has a lot more skill, in my opinion, but
Mhm.
Kadri and Kachuk are, similar style players. And
Yeah.
that's what we were missing. That's what we needed. So we brought him in, and what is it, like 2.5 mil or something like that, cheaper than Kachuk too. So
Yep.
I'm not overly choked about it. What about you?
I'm not overly choked about it either. I mean, I'm glad that it came in at the 7 and not the 9 plus that he was asking.
Oh, man, me too.
I mean, that there's no way I was paying Nazem Kadri that. I'm sure there's people that would have. I'm not one of them. Um, Especially when you start getting into the 5 plus seasons worth of it, right? Seven mil is much easier to take, and I don't mind that hit
Yeah.
really at all. For a top six center, it really shores up our center depth. We got Lindholm, we got Kadri, got Backlund, and then I suppose what Lewis on the fourth, or we can even slot in Rizika, which I would assume that once Brad gets back from Texas, that'll be one of the things he's going to take care of.
And Rooney too. And
Mhm.
it might not be ideal, but if we get decimated by injuries, Dubé can play center too. We've got some guys who can take face off, some guys who can run the middle of the ice if
Yeah,
need be. And it's not, like, we now have two guys that, like, in Kadri and Lindholm, that can run a first unit if they need to. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Um, Lindholm can do it, and Kadri probably shouldn't be. But if Lindholm, God forbid, gets hurt,
mhm.
then Kadri can do it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. He would be a
and
good spot filler, for if touch wood, right? If
yeah,
if an injury happens, on the top line there, especially with Lindholm, I'd be more than comfortable putting him in
yeah.
there for a couple of weeks, right?
And Backlund moving up to the second. I mean, he's
Yeah,
been on the second line for how long? And
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah, no,
But
exactly.
the way our teams lines up is really good right now.
100%. And I'm always a fan of having extra, center depth on the lines anyways, right? For
Me
when the
too.
center gets knocked out, or not knocked out, but thrown out of the face-off circle for
Fuck yeah.
whatever reason. You got to have those guys in there that can still take a draw.
You remember when Monahan was still healthy in 2019, I think?
You know what? I can't remember that far back, but yeah, no, I do. I
And
totally
we
remember
had
it.
Monahan and Lindholm on the same line, and then one of them got kicked out. The other one could win a face-off. Like
Yeah,
there's we could even slot them like that if we need to, right? Like we
yeah,
could even put Kadri there, slide Lindy over. I'd rather not, but it's a possibility, right?
yeah. It's Sutter's going to do some tinkering, I'm sure. I truly think that he's going to go with the three top centers playing that way, opposed to switching things up with putting Lindholm on the wing. At least that's my hope. I think we're deeper if we have those guys play in the middle.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
but I mean, there's no reason why you can't have them both playing on power play, penalty kill. Like there's options there, so I do like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I figured we should just dive in a little bit to his stats because this is something that's a little bit concerning. Like I feel like we're kind of paying him for his last season, which
What on earth do you mean?
well, I mean, he played on that absolutely stacked Stanley Cup um team of Colorado, and he got was it 87 points in
Yeah,
71 games, which is
I
a
mean
fucking ton of points. And like, yeah, if that was anywhere near what he would usually get, 7 mil would be a steal even at 7 years, honestly.
yeah, and
Um,
and you look at it, wasn't even a career year for him in goals.
no, it wasn't. He's got 232 goal seasons before, and this
Yeah,
this time he only got 28. But he's never had more than 61 points before this year,
yeah.
which is a little concerning. And he only had that once.
And
His
that
his
was 5 years
previous
ago.
career's high, sorry,
And that was 5 years ago.
2017, yeah,
Yeah.
61 points, and his career highs before this year was 61, 55, and 50 points, which is not it's really not that good, honestly.
It's,
But
I mean, if you take out last year's stats, none of that is worth 7 mil.
no. And so he had a career year and he was very effective in the playoffs, which is
Yeah.
something we need. We need a guy who
Desperately.
can play in the playoffs like badly.
Yeah.
Um, so we brought that in and we paid a premium for it, like we did with Blake Coleman last year. Um,
Well, I mean, he was just shy of point per game these last playoffs. So I mean, again, it's not even his best season for that, which is kind of crazy. Like for his first year in Colorado, he had 18 points in 15 games. Where this last season, he had 15 points in 16 games. I
so
mean,
he produces in the playoffs, is what you're trying to tell me.
you know what? He has no problem doing that.
When he plays.
Right, right. In 7 years, like for his career, in 52 playoff games, he has 44 points, 19 of which
That's
are goals. That's pretty damn good.
that's really good.
Yeah.
And I mean that's why I'm not personally upset about the amount of money we're paying him for the next 3 years, anyways, 4 years maybe.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Once we reach that plateau of 3, 4, whatever his body allows him to be effective, obviously we're gonna have to revisit that. Is it gonna be somebody that the players, or sorry, the fans rip on because he's too much money for what he produces,
absolutely.
i.e. Luch, which I know. I mean, I myself, I continue to want Milan on the team, and
I do too. I just wish it was like $3 million less.
100%. I'm sure he wishes it. So is that he didn't have to listen to the crap that we give him.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna just kind of dive in a little bit to his previous um playoff and regular season for that matter suspensions
What?
because it
His,
has been a problem.
it's been a huge problem up until this last season. So um
So pray to
has
God that that's like he
yeah,
learned from his mistakes.
yeah.
It's kind of hard sometimes to teach a 31-year-old new tricks, but hopefully, especially in hockey, but um, hopefully they did.
Um I know you pulled up those stats. I did not, and I'm really hoping that there hasn't been much in the last 3 seasons.
You know what?
Well,
I couldn't find a list of things past 2019, but there was something in 2019. In April of 2019, he cross-checked Jake DeBrusk and got in the playoffs and got um a suspension for that. And then the year before that, he around this actually the exact same day the year before that, April 13th, suspended 3 games for boarding Tommy Wingles. Um, and then April 4th, 2016, like these are all playoff time.
yeah.
Suspended 4 games for cross-checking Luke Glendening. I know there was another one. I think it was in 2020 or 2021, maybe that I don't think it was in the playoffs, but he got 8 games for hitting Justin Falk. And then he has, one in 2013 for against Nicholas Backstrom, and then a bunch of fines, right? Like I don't know if anybody listening remembers what he did to Mark Giordano, where he gave him the old throat slash and told him he was going to kill him and got a five grand suspension for that guy, which I think is
That's
kind of stupid.
most
And
Flames fans are going to remember that one.
yeah, and then he got 2 in 2016. He got 2. Holy shit! Within 2 weeks of each other in March, he got 2 different $2,000 diving penalties. Diving, not suspensions, but fines.
Fines for diving.
And like 2 weeks of each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
he's got a history, and we're all hoping to God that he doesn't, that his last playoffs were the only games he missed was because he broke his finger, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and
so we all hope to God that's what's happening.
If you look at his last 3 seasons for playoffs, at least while he's been in Colorado, the 2019-20 season was he played 15 games, had 10 minutes of penalties, which
That's not
yeah,
bad.
that's not bad at all, right? With 18 points, and he was a +3. There's nothing wrong with that. The next year, the 2021 season, he played 2 games, 1 assist, 10 minutes again. Um, not great, but still, was there? I mean, if there was suspension that happened in that year, I don't remember it. But then, of course, this season that just passed, there was 16 games. He only had 8 minutes in penalties in the playoffs. So, kind of
See
where I'm
that's
going
not
with that
bad.
is almost all of his garbage in the playoffs, whether it be suspensions and fines, and or even during the regular season, seems to have come when he was playing in Toronto under a very different microscope with the media there. You're on
Very
a
true.
pedestal. It's a different atmosphere than playing in Colorado for
And he
sure.
was a much younger player as well, right?
100%.
And
Yeah.
and some guys like the guy who he's quote unquote replacing in Kachuk, he's only 24. He's already
Yeah.
learned a tremendous amount. It's compared to the like 3 headshots every year he used to deliver, right? And that's
Yeah,
kind of what it seems like is happening with Kadri, except like 6, 7 years later
yeah.
in his career, he's finally learning that.
Well, that's
So
right. And
it's
if
good.
you look at the difference between the upbringing, I mean, I know nothing about Kadri's actual personal upbringing. I'm talking
Yeah.
more on the hockey side of things.
Yeah.
Um, if you remember, the one big incident that Kachuk had, and Brad took him aside and made like a true father, brought him out in front of the media, in front of the cameras, and forced him and made him to apologize for what he had done.
Yeah, and I think
You know what I
Keith was
mean?
actually in that too,
I
right?
believe so too.
Keith, I don't know if he talked on the phone or if they went and
Yeah,
talked to each other. But Brad, like if he's holding his players accountable, then there's
yeah,
even less reason for Naz to go out and
exactly.
do what he used to be known to do. And
That's right.
it's always going to be there because it's quite a hefty history. But at the same time,
Yeah,
you know,
100%. And then one of the big reasons why I bring that up is obviously with Nazem in Toronto, they don't have that. They don't have that Brad father figure pulling you aside, going, "What the fuck have you done? Like you don't do that here." Right? In Toronto, they almost relish those things because it just means way more media attention. There's more microphones at the scrums because they want to ask those questions, and that they thrive on that as an organization,
yeah,
right? And so that's why I think when he got to Colorado, things kind of changed because they don't thrive on that. That's not their that's not what they do,
right.
right? They go and they play hockey, and
And
that's why obviously with his age, that's a factor as well. But the last couple of years playing in Colorado, that just wasn't a thing. It just
and
that's just not what they
Daddy
do
Joe
there.
Sakic probably too, right? Like
100%. Yeah,
he probably
absolutely.
had a thing or two to say about a thing or two. And you know what? Like there's a lot of things I've heard about McKinnon recently that I haven't been that big of a fan of, like how absolutely ridiculous he is about what his teammates eat and shit like that. But at the same time, that means he's also holding his teammates accountable, right?
Yeah,
So maybe that had a little rub off effect, and maybe the great leadership of Gabriel Landeskog or whatever, whoever it may have been, Eric Johnson, even, like, who knows?
yeah. Well, for sure. Yeah, if you look at Toronto over the last, however many years, like look at the leadership that he's had.
Yeah,
Like, not great.
not
Yeah,
not the best. I mean, who did they have? I guess those were probably like the FNUF years, weren't they?
yeah. So
So that
let's
so
hey,
there you
let's go
go.
to the bar. I've got a guy that can sell us some blow. I think something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
um, shall we take a break and let everyone know who our sponsors are?
yeah. Might as well. All right, guys. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can feel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before.
Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in.
You can throw down on all your major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. I'm a Blue Jays fan, and so we're always looking to make some bets. I'm going to make mine. You should make yours.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Holy, that was a lot of information, right?
Holy
Anyways,
fuck.
speaking of information, we also traded a beloved
Calgary Flame.
Calgary Flame.
The
I
beginning of
apologize.
our rebuild, the guy who sparked our rebuild when he was drafted.
Number 23.
Um,
As my daughter referred to him for quite a number of years when she was younger, Sean Monahan.
I can see why.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a joke in our house for years and years and years.
Ah,
Um, you know what? it's a sad state of affairs when the body gives up on you.
Especially when you're what, 28, 27.
27, yeah. Um, it sucks. It's the business of hockey, and yeah, it is what it is, right?
No,
A huge fall from grace from being that 20 to 30 goal guy consistently every year. And then injuries just riddled this poor kid. It sucks, but it is what it is.
yeah, one wrist to the other wrist to the other to one hip to the other hip, and all of
Yeah,
that needed surgery, and it was all within like a 2 year period there, and
yeah,
it just kind of messed with his ability to do much to help the team and
yeah,
or even himself really, because he's such a proud guy. He just wanted to keep playing when he shouldn't have.
yeah,
um
absolutely, and that's clear given up until this last one. But every other injury before that, I mean, he attempted to play through it. It was very visible and obvious that he was going through something every time he had
Absolutely.
the injury. But I mean, you can't fault his give a shit, because I mean he tried to play through it and fight through it, and I couldn't imagine the amount of pain that the poor guy was playing through there for probably three full seasons.
Close to that. And
Yeah,
if you think about it, like, he's a centerman, so he pivot slots, he takes
yep.
face offs. That's got to be hard on the hips. And
Oh,
then his other job is to, historically throughout his career has been to stand in front of the net
yeah,
and slap in some wristers, right?
yeah.
And
I'm
you
pretty
need
sure that
wrists for that.
I'm pretty sure cross checks in the lower back aren't great for the hip either.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You know,
Like,
plus his other injuries were his wrist, right? Which I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that's a pretty key thing for taking face offs. So you know
And
what,
I want to give
Sean?
him some credit.
Yeah, do it.
Um,
Give him
did you
give him credit.
hear his interview in Montreal? Or I guess he wasn't in Montreal, but with the Montreal media.
I listened to a little bit of it, and I wanted to go back to it once it wasn't live, so I can start it at the beginning. And the
Okay.
link that I had was broken after that and wouldn't actually play it. So I've
So,
I've heard about a minute and a half of it.
okay. So I won't spoil too much of it for you, but one thing that really stood out to me is he did something that he's never really done before, even in the last few years when he's been, chronically injured. He's always done this thing where he says he's okay, or he um says he's okay too quickly, and then he tries to come back and he's not fully healthy.
Yeah.
And um he took all the responsibility of that in that
Hmm.
interview. He said it's my own doing, that I just wanted to play and I shouldn't have, type of thing, is what he said.
Interesting.
I'm paraphrasing, but and then he basically said that because he had the surgery, a few weeks before he did the last year, as far as time wise left in the season is concerned. Apparently, he's been back on the ice for 4 days a week for a few weeks, and he's
Yeah.
planning on training hard. And he kept saying in the interview that he wanted to come back to playing at a high level, and believes he can, and he feels better than he ever has, like,
Good.
since he was injured. And he might play for a different team. I wish him the best, because he was
Absolutely.
a soldier for us.
He really was. He was a soldier for us on the ice. He was amazing within our community.
Really
With
good.
yeah, with it, with his charity and stuff like that. And to, quite honestly, because I'm twice his age, almost twice his age. Like I've been watching him since he was like literally a kid,
18.
and watching him come up and he carries himself in a different way than what some fans like as far as in front of the camera and stuff, because he's always kind of shy, right? He's never he's never outspoken. He's not that guy. But
No,
watching him kind of progress as a human, as a man, and all that fun stuff.
growing into a man.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I appreciate him being with the organization for many years. And it's sad that it ended up the way it did. And absolutely, I wish him nothing but the best in Montreal. And I really hope that he gets his career back on track.
Absolutely. With that said, would you like to tell the fine people what the trade was and why it happened the way it did?
So the trade, you're not going to make me break down the.
No.
Okay, good.
No, Tree Living can't even do that properly.
Right. No,
Yeah.
and why would he?
Yeah.
So yeah, so effectively, because of essentially his fall from grace and just his injuries and where he's slotted within the organization over the last 2 seasons, especially with Daryl. Daryl holds his guys accountable, so he went from the first line, second line, third, and then kind of transferred between third and fourth last year before obviously ultimately going on long term injured reserve.
Yeah.
So we traded Monahan and a conditional first round pick, which to start with is the one that we received from trading Matthew Tkachuk to Florida, which is what 2025.
So yeah,
Right, it's 2025.
I believe that's the one that's originally in the trade, but
Yeah,
either way, it's either going to be our pick, I believe,
it's
that year, or their pick that year, or our pick the next year, or their pick the next year, depending on where
yeah,
the conditions go. And if it has to get pushed to the next year, then we also have to give them either a third or a fourth.
yeah.
But we're not going to break down too much of the
No, but so
but
effectively we gave him the 2025 pick from Florida, and then the condition is it can either be the 24 or the 26, depending on how things break down.
Yeah.
On our end of things, they're top 10 pick protected, right, for all 3 years. On
And one of them
Montreal's,
is top one protected, which is weird, but yeah.
well, all three are top 10.
Yeah.
And then on Montreal's side of things, they're bottom 4 protected.
Yeah.
So if we slot anywhere in there, then they have the option to move it along. So
Exactly.
so effectively, for once 2024 happens, if we're not in a position to be drafting in the last 4, then they have the option to grab another year, right? So
Yeah.
it's I mean effectively it's going to end up being the 25 pick is what
I'm pretty sure it's just going to end up being Florida's
yeah
25 pick.
yeah
But
exactly.
there's a small chance that it could be one of several other options, but
Sure.
all of them include a first round pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it was a salary dump.
100%. Yeah. Yeah,
and to open the roster spot.
That's right. And the word is that we actually had Nazem signed almost a week ago.
Yeah.
Or had the agreement with Kadri almost a week ago.
Yeah.
But we had to make a move, right? We had to clear off, Sean's contract, which was what 6.375, I believe.
Yep.
So we had to get that off the books before we could actually sign it, because you don't want to sign the contract and then try and deal the player, because the other teams within the league are going to be like, yeah, well, you're bent over now. And
so we're going to ask for more.
Yeah, we would have had to give more with, like a very recently former 20 to 30 goal scorer, which would have sucked, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, honestly, the first round kind of sucked anyways. I was expecting it to cost us a third rounder or something like that.
Sure.
But especially because there's only 1 year left. But I mean,
well, we didn't retain any salary, which is nice.
Yeah.
Normally on a salary dump, you retain
a quarter of it or something.
Yeah. So we let it all go. So it is what it is, right? It's off the books. It's damn close to what Kadri's contract is, and again, it was only for a year, like you said. So,
and we still have a first round pick that year. Like, I'm pretty sure no matter which way it happens, we still have a first round pick that year.
in 2025, you mean? Yeah.
Whichever year they take the pick from, because part of the conditions are also Florida's conditions, which would kick their first round pick to the next year. But um
Right.
yeah, it's a very confusing long ass page of conditions. But again, like you said, it is what it is. It's something that had to be done in order to get Nazem Kadri signed. Um,
It's it's really fun actually. If anybody that's listening, if you want to check out Cap Friendly, um, on and look at the next 3 seasons worth of draft picks that the Flames have, there's a lot of asterisks on it, and they only do 3 seasons worth. The 2024 just says so the asterisk that it's contingent on a trade from today. The 2025 first, same thing from today. The third round in 2025 has a caveat for the trade for today. Same with the fourth round. So
yeah,
there's so many moving parts as far as the conditions go on that draft pick. And I mean, quite frankly, I don't think we're going to know until it's actually announced the year that they're taking the pick. Like
yeah.
they like the list on it there that Matt posted in our chat was
Yeah,
like holy crap. Like I'm not reading that. Like I've got better things to do with my time. Like that was a
I've tried reading
freaking
it
novel.
several times, got
Yeah.
about halfway through a couple times, kind of got the general gist of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of conditions, nonetheless.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, long and short, sorry to see you go, Sean. Sorry that it worked out the way it is. It's the business of hockey. Wish you good luck, brother.
yeah. And now we've got, I believe we still have 2 million ish in cap space left.
We have 2.136
Right. And we
left in
also
cap.
still have like, a whole bunch of seventh defensemen that we probably could get rid of, say a Valimaki or whoever else. Valimaki's worth $2 million on the cap, so that's
Mm-hmm.
there's possibly 4 million.
Yep.
Just as a thought. There's still some more moves that could be made if we need to make them.
Yeah, absolutely. Valimaki is 1.55 and is an RFA after next season.
Oh, I thought he was 2 for some reason, but still that so there's 3.5, which
Mm-hmm.
is a lot more than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I mean we have Oliver Shillington at 2.5 for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, there's options.
There is options. Nick Maloche. We have uh Dennis Gilbert. We have quite a few guys. And the thing is you could even package a couple of those guys up and send them somewhere. And then, Mike Stone, I pretty much guarantee you he's sitting there waiting for a roster spot to open up for him.
You know
And
what?
and if he does, and if it doesn't, he probably won't play.
I truly hope that we find a way to slot Michael Stone in
Me
for,
too. I love Mike Stone.
if not minimal, half of next season, the full
Yeah.
season. Like I have all the time in the world for Mike Stone. Also to note, we do still need to sign Adam Ruzicka. Now that some of the obviously the big stuff has been done for Brad when he gets back from Texas, I'm sure that'll be
Yeah.
you know item number one. I suspect.
I'm not gonna go out here and say this for sure, but my guess is it's not gonna be more than like $1.2 million on a 1 or 2 year deal for Ruziska,
At most, yeah, I agree.
right?
I think it'll come in at 950,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the other thing is like we've got some forward depth too.
yeah.
I really like Ruziska. I'd love to see him get a full-time gig next year,
Hmm.
but he's another like package up a guy with talent like Ruziska and a guy with talent who's probably needs a fresh start, I'll say nicely, in Valimaki. You package those two guys up and you could probably get something decent out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I've been talking about packaging Valimaki and Shillington for a while. But I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, we could package Rizika. I know Sutter speaks very highly of him.
And I do too. Like I said, I love Rosiska. I'd love to keep him, but there's so many options. So like we're deep as fuck, honestly, on the blue line, and we're deep as fuck in some positions, pretty much all non-right wing positions.
Yeah.
Uh and we're even somewhat deep on in net too. Like we've got options, Chris. And I don't think we've had this many options in a long time.
You're right. It has been a while, and it's funny you actually mentioned the right wing position because Adam is listed in Cap Friendly as a center slash right winger.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I've only ever seen him play center, I believe.
agreed. Yeah, I agree with that.
But guys switch around all the time. Like I not gonna sit here and say I watched 30, 40 AHL games last year. I watched four, and three of them were in the playoffs when Rosiska wasn't even there. So
Right. Yeah,
I
that's right.
wouldn't know.
It's kind of a crying shame, right? Like Stockton, obviously Calgary
Wranglers.
Wranglers now, but Stockton was
I
in a
love that. You
in a
have to say that every time now.
100%. They're in a pretty intense playoff run, and one of their top guys is just watching Flames play hockey from the press box. So I really
And
that
Valimaki was too for a long time.
yeah, that's right.
I mean, not that he's one of their top guys, because he was honestly in the on the second pair for a large part of last season, but
Yeah,
in the AHL.
yeah. Well, I guess when you become full of attitude, that's just the way she goes, right?
Yep. Sutter isn't gonna bend because you're got a shit attitude, most likely.
Well, no, exactly. Sutter came in last year, so the 2021 season, and Valimaki was kind of a regular on the Flames until Sutter came to town, and what do you know, the kid is finding it hard to find ice time in Stockton,
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's a little bit of a far reach there for Daryl. I
right, right.
love it.
Like he immediately started riding Valimaki on the pine, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. But yeah, I mean, Adam played 28 games last year, and I'm hoping he can slot into at least 60 this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna I think 60 is gonna be a lot, especially
Yeah.
considering the roster we've got going on right now. But
True.
I would bet he probably hits 40, 45 ish.
Yeah. I mean, even
But
that'll be tough. I think we're gonna have to move somebody out in order to accomplish that. Obviously, sending Sean away helps, but of course we brought in another
then you
center.
bring in Kadri, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, is there a lot of options for Adam to play next year? Who knows? I don't. Yeah, it's really hard to say because, like I said, Sutter speaks pretty highly of him, which he doesn't necessarily do that often. So I think he
Especially
probably,
with young players.
yeah, I think he took him aside and gave him a few here's what you need to do to make it kind of conversations, and so we'll
Yeah.
see.
Um, and I think that'll probably about do it for us today. Um, that was a great conversation, Chris. And we will be back with a little bit of a preview of our forward corps and a little bit of a preview of our defensive system uh, in two different episodes in the next week or two.
Yeah,
So stay on the lookout for that on the Hockey Podcast Network, Apple Music, Spotify, all that type of stuff,
make sure you,
and YouTube.
make sure you follow it, share it, tell your friends. Like I said, we're new to the Hockey Podcast Network. We've been Dylan and I have been working together for I guess like what 3 years now
Close to it, yeah.
on two different two different shows. We were involved in another one previous to ArmChair GM Podcast, and just love talking Flames. Well, just love talking hockey for that matter. I know you're probably feeling the same way as I am. I'm kind of excited for the season coming up.
I am too, man. I'm really surprised the way that this season started, that I'm this pumped
just
up.
just an absolute roller coaster of emotions over the last month.
Yeah.
Man alive, lose our two of our top guys to gain what we've gained with Kadri and Huberdeau and Uyghur, and like, man alive, it's been fun. It's been fun since the first week and a half to 2 weeks was torture. I
It
was
was.
on vacation, and just reading about it every once in a while while sitting on the beach. But it was, I mean, obviously that wasn't torture, but the reading about it was. So good on you,
Absolutely.
Brad. You've done a complete 180 compared to what was happening a month ago, and well, God damn it, I think you saved your job.
You did. Cheers.
Cheers. All right, everybody, have a good night. We'll see you next week. Go Flames.
Go Flames, go.